John Ramdeen here. Welcome to FN's presentation of Toe to Toe. We hang out with some of the most athletic competitors, interesting characters, and pioneering figures in combat sports. And our guest today, I think, fits all the criteria. I want to welcome Sean Pierson to Toe to Toe. Sean, thank you so much for joining us. And first off, I want to talk about your demeanor. Off camera and on camera, two different characters. Are you playing a game in the world of mixed martial arts?
I wish. I don't even know what my character on screen is. I think I'm a lot lighter off screen, like I know that. You know, I'm a lot more free-flowing. It's always, I think I'm scared to say the wrong thing sometimes on camera. And what I've been told my whole life is people don't get my sense of humor all the time. You know, because sometimes, you know, I'll say something, we'll say conceited. And I don't really mean to be conceited, I'm just trying to be funny, but, you know, it comes across the wrong way sometimes. So off camera, it's easy for me to correct that when people see me, but on camera, it's like, it's a one-time shot. And I'm trying to get more of that on camera though, because, you know, to me, I do think I've got a funny sense of humor. It's just one of those things that, you know, some people like it, some people don't, but, you know, again, we always say, you know, just go with it.
What were some of your dreams growing up as a child? Obviously, a lot of us think about being police officers or firefighters. What was the dream for Sean Pierson?
It's really, I had a lot of dreams. I wanted to be a pro athlete my whole life. Hockey, baseball, football, WWF wrestling, if we call that. But growing up as a kid, I just wanted to be the guy on camera, and athletics was my thing because, you know, as much as I wanted to be an actor too, I didn't even take drama class in grade 9 because I was intimidated by, you know, girls at that age. It wasn't like I was intimidated, but it was one of those things where I was uncomfortable acting in front of them. I was never uncomfortable when we played sports though. I was always very outgoing, and that was my personality. I was sort of a little bit cocky, having fun with it. But outside of that, I was a little bit standoffish and I was shy. I was like, I didn't know what to say all the time. What am I going to talk about? But as soon as you put a ball in my hand or we started playing a sport, all of a sudden that took over. And that's when my real personality, I felt, the personality that I wanted to be, took over, is when I could just go out there and have fun with things.
Why was the focus sports? Like what allowed you to say, look, this is what I'm going to focus on and this is what I'm going to succeed at?
It's weird that even at a young age, I love sports. I think my parents put me in every sport when I was a young kid. And it was weird because looking back, my parents didn't play sports. They didn't have the opportunity. So when I was a young kid, they put me in baseball. I played basketball, cross-country team. I was on all the hockey teams. I was in every sport. The only sport I never got to play was football because my parents said it was too dangerous, which looking back is a little bit odd. But I remember my dad saying, you know, I want to try for the Pickering Dolphins. When I was a young kid, my dad's like, no, that's a dangerous sport. And again, my parents didn't play sports. They didn't know anything. They just thought football was a dangerous sport. They didn't think wrestling was dangerous. And now look at me fighting. It's probably not the #1 priority for them. But I was one of those guys who when I lost at something, I didn't give up. I always wanted to overcome that and try and win. So I remember playing my dad in ping pong as a young kid. We were big ping pong players. And he beat me every game. He'd never let me win. And then as soon as I started to win a couple, my dad quit. So I can see my personality came a little bit from my dad because he's very competitive. And as soon as he wasn't able to beat me at something, he just called it quits.
Sean, you've mentioned now a couple of times your folks. Explain the relationship you have with them. Obviously, they're very supportive of you and everything that you've done.
Yeah, like, it's one of those things where most fighters, like everybody wants to see the story where they come from a broken home or from, you know, I don't want to say they come from abusive parents, but that's some kids' stories. My story is the complete opposite. I have the two greatest parents in the world. I've got nothing bad to say about them. They're both great role models to me, and they've given me the opportunity of a lifetime. They provided me with the opportunities by encouraging me to play sports. They encouraged me to stay in school. Like the one rule I had growing up is if you weren't on the honor roll, you weren't playing sports. Now, I don't think they would have ever held that accountable, but it was one of those fears as a kid in grade 10. Oh, I need an 80 average or I'm getting yanked out of wrestling, hockey, baseball. And I knew I couldn't afford anything. I worked at Subway. I made $6 an hour back then. I knew I couldn't afford nothing. So it was one of those things where I just, you know, they were really supportive. And my mom was that person who, if I told her today, if I said today, hey mom, I want to be a doctor, they'd be like, okay. You know, I probably have to move back in with mom and dad with the family, but they'll be like, let's go to med school, let's get it done. Because my mom, she's one of those, you can do anything. I grew up with the mentality that no man is better than you. You can do anything you set your mind to. And I look at myself today and it holds true. You know, whatever you want to do, whatever goals you want to accomplish, if you work hard at them, you'll get there. And that was the one thing about me getting to the UFC. My goal was to get to the UFC as a young kid. And, you know, I had the opportunity when the whole contrast happened with the police force and the fighting. I want to be a good role model for my son. And if my parents said you could always chase your dreams and accomplish what you want, that was the one thing that I'm like, this is my chance to accomplish that one goal, that one dream I had. who am I to turn that down? There's no way. So I'm here now, and I've given my family, myself, some of the greatest experiences we'll ever have because of the UFC. And if my UFC days were done today, I can look back and say that was no mistake. That's been a great experience. This is, you know, a part of my life that I truly will always remember and look up to.
What does it mean to be a good role model?
Again, because the way I look up to my parents, I could only be so blessed to have my son look up to me in the same way. I want to be able to provide my son all the opportunities and just to push him in the right direction, because I know everybody has their own what they want to do, but I want to show him that whatever he wants, he can have as long as he accomplishes or tries hard, he can accomplish his dreams. So by me following my dream shows him that he shouldn't be afraid to follow his dreams. And that holds true for, you know, because I want to talk to kids, I want to be good in the community, so that holds true for anybody. You know, if you have a dream and you work hard at it, I think any dreams are, you know, accomplishable. And this is just coming from me. There's much greater role models out there that have done bigger things. You know, you look at Microsoft, Apple, some of those guys, Michael Dell, they started in the garage, you know, making computers to where they are now, and on a corporate side versus me just on an athletic side. You know, there's some great stories out there, and I just want to be a story that maybe some local kid looks up to, or my son looks up to and says, you know, I'm a positive influence in their life.
You're educated. You had a good career. You were in computers. You seemed to have really everything moving in the right direction. Why were you willing to risk that to chase the dream?
Because what you said there, the right direction. The right direction for me was always this. And it wasn't, I don't know if I can say it was fighting, it was just sports and athletics is something that I've been passionate about my whole life. At university, I was on the university wrestling team, I was on the university baseball team. And I would have been on every other sport if they had let me. I love athletics and I love sports, and I love technology, so it was sort of a weird contrast there. I was a computer nerd growing up, but I felt like I'd be at Dell every day, and any spare time I had, I was surfing the internet watching fights. I was always studying fights, always watching them. So I think it was just one of those things where if I had to turn this down or not gone this direction, I would always be wondering what if. And the biggest thing for me in my life was I quit wrestling when I was 23, I think. That was after university. And I think I was about maybe number 3 in the country at the time. And my goal in wrestling was to get to the Olympics. And that didn't happen. I didn't look at it as I retired from wrestling. I look at it as I quit. And I didn't want that to happen with the UFC, because the one time when I went to Montreal, the first time I really trained in Montreal with George was for the Hollanda fight. And I remember George actually saying something to me. I remember after halfway through the week, I was there with him a week, and he's like, Sean, you know that you're better than a lot of the guys that have already fought in the UFC. He's like, don't think that you don't belong in the UFC. And at the time I was fighting for, you know, the lower shows, Rec, W1, all those other shows. And that held to me. I was like, you know, because it's George saying it, maybe he's just being nice, maybe he's not. But I looked at that and I'm like, because I always felt like I should be there. And I don't mean should be as in they're avoiding me or they're not. I mean, skill-wise, I should be there. I haven't trained or done the right things to get there yet, but I felt like I belonged in the UFC. I felt I could compete there. So that was one of those things where that was just another little pillar for me to stand on. When George said that, I was like, I want to do this.
When mixed martial arts, and I don't even know if it was called mixed martial arts when you go back and look at the UCC, but when it started here, did you know that it was going to be a global phenomenon, that mixed martial arts was going to rival hockey as, you know, one of Canada's most popular games?
Not even close. For me, this is going to sound bad, but again, this is one of those things where it's my personality. But when I fought back in the day, I wasn't a martial artist. I was a wrestler thug. You know, I was a wrestler who was just a tough little kid. I fought to get on TV. I loved the UFC, but I just wanted to go out there and fight. This was back in the IFC, and just be on TV so me and my friends could watch it. I just wanted to be the center of attention like every other egotistical kid that thinks the world revolves around him. I was just going out having fun. It honestly was just about having fun. Me and my friends are going to do a road trip down to Montreal. I'm going to fight. We're going to get on TV. They're going to pay me some money. I never, ever thought of this as a career. And that's why you look at my early career, and that's what happened. I never took anything serious. I didn't train for fights. If Stefan Petrie or whoever called me for a fight, I usually just said yes. It didn't matter if I had been to the gym in a month or not. I never ran before. I never trained. I just was an athletic kid that liked to fight, and I thought it was a great sport. And I'm like, let's go do it. Let's go have some fun with this. And I relied on pretty much my wrestling experience and pure athletics. And sometimes I won, sometimes I lost. But at the end of the day, I thought I was always going to be competitive. It was just I wasn't conditioned to fight, especially going after the first round. I knew if we got out of the first round, I could run into some trouble because there's no way I trained, especially looking at how I train now, and I'm still not doing it right because training is one of those recipes that you got to figure out, and some people get it right away, and for me, I've gotten better at it. I think my last fight, our training camp was very good, but it's still got to get better. I definitely didn't have even our recipe back then. I remember I took some fights I hadn't trained in a month and a half. I hadn't even been in a gym other than maybe to lift some weights. But fighting to me was enjoyable. It was like men's league hockey. You go play a game of men's league hockey, I'm gonna go to Montreal and have a fight, have a great weekend, see if I can pick up some girls, and go home with some money. This is gonna be a great time.
For mixed martial arts fans of the sport, it's escapism. They tune into the pay-per-view, they see some stuff that they will never be a part of. Comic books and technology, that's your escapism.
For sure. I've been a Superman fan my whole life. That was my guy growing up. Batman grew on me huge, and then we got into the whole, when X-Men came out, I started even getting, it's funny, as I got older, I got more into comics. And really, comics are just like real life. What happens, it's our escape of saying, this is what I want to accomplish. Like some of these superheroes, it's like, you look at them as role models. And I don't mean role models and that's who I want. I just mean, you can pretend like, what would you do if you had this superhuman strength, or what would you do if you had these X-ray vision? You know, every boy's had that thought. So it's just weird. In video games, I'll be honest, since I was a kid, I was into video games. Like, I mean, from Montezuma's Revenge on the PC Junior back in the day, we can talk about Asteroids, all the way up through Nintendo, PS1, Xbox.
And you stayed current.
Yeah, I say there was probably a 4-year lapse where I had a console, but I didn't play a lot. And I remember about 2 years ago, or just before the UFC maybe, my wife bought me my first Call of Duty game. I was a Halo guy before that. I'm still a Halo guy, but Call of Duty, she got me Black Ops 1, was the first one I've ever played. I remember going online because it's easy to play when you just play the campaign. Play the campaign, I'm like, I'll finish this game in 3 days, 2 days, because I'm just gonna play it straight and it's done. But then there's really nothing left to do. All of a sudden I went online and I got murked. I just mean kids were eating me up. And my ego.
Smack too?
They don't talk that much smack unless you talk back. But I can't talk smack when you're going 3-20. What am I gonna say? You know what I mean? Like I would respond, and right away dead. I'd be looking like I don't even know what I'm doing wrong. You know what I mean? Like I was so bad at the game. But some people, like I've got friends, they'll just shut the game off. They won't play it again. My ego doesn't let me do that. I needed to keep playing. I need to at least get decent at the game, and I'm still doing it today. I'm on Black Ops 2 right now, and I'm like, no, like, I've gotten to a stage where I'm good. Now, when I say I'm good, there's still times when I go online and I get taught a lesson by kids that are actually good. You know what I mean? There's a difference between good and good. I just love the competitiveness of anything, of sports in general, I call video game sports. If you're gonna watch NASCAR on TSN, I don't know why video games aren't on there.
I hear you.
Because to me, they go hand in hand. So I just love the competitiveness and the competitive nature of sports in general, and I think it really instrains a lot of good qualities in people. And I think that's why, you know, at Dell Computers I was successful, is because of my competitiveness. Because of the same thing, when I'm selling things, I see a leaderboard of who's selling the most, and I'm that competitive guy that's like, all right, I got to improve. I got to get better at this. And just like anything else, I'm trying to be the best I can be at whatever I do. So whatever my next step in life, whatever it is, I think I'm going to excel at it. It just takes time. And as long as I've got that time to give and that commitment and that motivation, I'm going to be good at it. It'll take me a minute.
When you see other fighters out there that think this is going to last forever, do you say anything, or do you just sit back and say, you've got some living to do?
It's hard, right? Because, you know, some of these guys, they're going to make millions of dollars. Some of them aren't. And it's hard to say, because who am I? Do you know what I mean? Like, I got to my dream when I was, 34 years old. I know I won't make $1 million. And all the money I do make just goes right. I was probably making better money before. Let's call a spade a spade. I was making better money at my job before, and it was on a regular, right? But the truth of the matter is, money's not everything in my life, and I know that now. The one thing I worry about some of these guys is when they're young, they get this money, they don't spend. No one's teaching anybody how to spend money. And the UFC does do, they tell you, okay guys, taxes are coming, this is coming. So they're trying to educate people, but they can't educate every fighter. I don't know how many fighters are in the UFC, 300. And this goes for mixed martial arts in sports in general. I've seen kids, get a lot of money, sign a $700,000 signing bonus to the NHL, but they don't really make it, and they don't have anything to show for it. If you were given $700,000 today, if I was given that much money, I'd be set for a long time, because I'd pay off the right things. I mean, I'd invest properly, but I don't think people are getting educated enough on how to spend their money. And with our sport, a small mistake is a knockout. So you get a couple of those in a row, you might be back down to the minors, you're not making real money anymore, it's a tough road back up. I think it's just a tough sport in general, and when people add the money problems to it, it can be drastic, it can be bad.
We all know becoming a parent changes you. How did it change you?
I think it made me realize that the world doesn't revolve around me, it revolves around my son and only my son. No, but it was one of those things where I honestly realized, because, before, even when I was with my wife, like we were married, I don't want to say the world revolved around me, but it was all about what can I accomplish? What can Sean do? Can Sean get to the UFC? Can Sean win this match? Can Sean be world champion? It was always about me. And now, if for the family, they said, Sean, we need you here, like, they've got carte blanche. If they want me to quit fighting, if they wanted me to do something different, I'll do anything for them. Because right now my life is about raising my son. And that's one thing I think I've known my whole life. I've always said that I want to be that parent that gives his son, I want to be my son's hockey coach. I want to be his baseball coach. I want to be what my parents were to me. And that means that eventually I have to step out of the spotlight completely and give that opportunity to my son. Whether he wants to be in a spotlight or not, I have to give him the opportunity, which is what my parents gave me. They didn't push me into a spotlight. They gave me an opportunity to do what I wanted. And I decided that I sort of wanted to be a spotlight in sports. So I'm going to give my son those opportunities, and it's just a cycle. Hopefully he does it, he looks up to us and he does that for his kids, and I think that's what good family morals are all about.
It's Freedom 55. You had a lifetime of accomplishments. You competed at the highest level in mixed martial arts. You're a family man. You've done the business world. How many more things are on the bucket list, so to speak?
It's weird. I don't know if I have a bucket list. There's definitely things I want to do. At the end of the day, the truth of the matter is, all I want to make sure, and we've talked about this as family, I just want to make sure that my family's taken care of financially. Like, I need to make sure that financially, that if something happens to me, that my son and my wife are good, my parents are good, my sister. I just want everybody to be taken care of the best that I can help take care of everybody. I would love to be stay with mixed martial arts. After my fighting career, I want to be involved in mixed martial arts, whether that be a TV personality, promoting. I don't know where I fit in, and that's my struggle right now, is because I know I'm nearing the end of my career, and I'm trying to see, where do I fit? Can I do TV? Can I do promoting? I don't know where I fit. I'm managing guys right now, but I don't know if managing's my passion. Managing's more of, these are my friends that I manage. I'm just looking after their best interests. You know what I mean? And because I've got a little more experience than they do, I'm doing that. I like teaching. So for me, it's just all about seeing what's next on my list, what I do well, and really what people want from me. Because I think that's the hardest thing to find. It's like, I find I spread myself thin. I try 30 different things, and I never focus on the one, because I don't know what they think I should be doing or what I feel like I should be doing. It's always like, well, I'll just try 100 things and see what happens, because that's how sports happen for me. I tried every sport, and eventually the cream rises to the top. What are you good at? What are you best at? And that's what happened for me with wrestling, which turned into mixed martial arts, which turned into my career as it is now.
If you could change one thing about mixed martial arts, what would it be?
I think the biggest thing for me is just the perception of, when you can be on top of the world, you win 5, 6, 7 fights in a row, the fans, everybody think you're God. First of all, no one is. As soon as you lose a fight, I feel like everybody drops you off the radar, like, you suck. And maybe it's just a perception because I'm in the game, I'm that fighter, but that's how it feels. It feels like all of a sudden you're overrated, washed up, don't belong here. But it's just weird to me in our sport, and maybe it's true in boxing too, but I look at sports like hockey. I'm a huge hockey fan. I'm a Leaf fan. But when we beat, let's say, the Detroit Red Wings or Chicago, no one thinks that the Leafs are the Stanley Cup champions because we've just beat the ex-Stanley Cup champions. No, we beat you this day. It doesn't mean that we're better. It means we were better than you on February 1st, 2013. You know, that we were better than you this day. This game, we were better than you. And with fighting, it's not like that. It's like if you lose a fight because you slipped up and something happened, everybody just assumes you're not as good as that person. Just because you lose to somebody today doesn't mean you're better than them tomorrow. That's why the ranking systems for me, I don't care. And as much as you want everybody to like you, it never happens. So when I see rankings about fighters, I'm grateful I'm even mentioned. You know, if someone's ahead of me that shouldn't be, or I don't feel should be, it doesn't bother me. It used to bother me a lot. And now I'm just like, it doesn't matter. It's a popularity contest between who likes who. Because once again, once we're in the UFC, I can't pick and choose opponents. I mean, it's not like I can, if I had a choice back 2 years ago, I would have built myself nice and slow. I would have given myself the fights that I thought benefited me the most. That's not how it happened. It was, here's Riddle, here's Jake Ellenberger, here's Dong Hyun Kim. That's not a slow progression. I've had many fighters talk to me like, why did you take that fight? Your pay scale, you don't belong in those fights yet. And I'm like, I know, but what do you do? But at the same time, I'm 34 years old at the time. I'm like, I begged to get to the UFC. Who am I to turn down fights? I begged to get here. I would have fought for free back in the day. And now I realize the business is the stupidest decisions ever. But I mean, you can't beg to be somewhere and then be picky and choosy about who you fight. I'm here to fight. If Jake Ellenberger or Dong Hyun Kim or George St. Pierre, whoever's put in front of me, I've got to fight. Me and Jake or me and whoever could go fight in a back alley and none of you could watch it. And for us, that's fine, it's enjoyable, but we're trying to put on a good show for everybody. But I just find whoever the loser is always gets the short end of the stick. And whether that be me or someone else, I just mean, oh, like I remember when I beat Riddle. Riddle got played out huge. Oh, Riddle sucks, Riddle's this, Riddle's that. No, he doesn't. Now people are liking me because he's won a bunch of fights, but when I beat him, oh, he just got exposed huge. It's just a matchup that worked out well for me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm glad I won, don't get me wrong, and I think my skills just matched up better than most do with his style. And that's where I felt my boxing was a little better, my wrestling kind of, so it worked out really well, but all of a sudden he was getting criticized, and I didn't think he really deserved to be criticized that bad, but who am I? Like, fans can do what they want, they pay the bills. But I just feel like, again, with mixed martial arts, we're just going out there to put on a show. That's why, like, K1 back in the day, you'd see guys fight each other over and over again, month to month. And guys would have losing records, or as long as they put on good fights. And that's the way the UFC's been going a little bit lately. If you're a good fan draw, you can lose some fights if you're putting on good fights. And I think that's big in the sport.
He is one of the pioneering figures in Canadian mixed martial arts who continues to make his mark in the UFC's welterweight division. I want to thank Sean Pierson so much for joining us, and I want to thank you for tuning in over this last half hour. I'm John Ramdeen saying so long. We'll see you next time on Toe to Toe.